You might think your eBay account is safe, but it's not. I've seen sellers lose everything. Listings gone, payments frozen, and all those years of hard work completely gone to waste. And often at times it's all because of one simple mistake. And the scary part is eBay doesn't even warn you. One day you wake up and you check your account, you've got an email and it's saying that you're currently suspended or potentially even banned for life. And the worst part is, it's the inexperienced beginner eBay sellers that are the ones that are at most risk because scammers go after them, negative feedback is easily applied, and the policy violations that come into it can absolutely kill an eBay seller, especially when they're in their first few years of selling. In this video today, I want to unpack the dark side of selling on eBay. I want to talk about the consequences of negative feedback, what common scams people are trying to attack new beginner eBay sellers with, and the policy violations that could lead you to become suspended or even banned. There's going to be a bunch of chapters in this video, so feel free to skip around. Pay attention though, because this stuff could ultimately save your business. Let's have a chat about negative feedback. Now, this is often a topic of discussion that brings about a lot of fear with eBay sellers. And look, I've had my fair share over the journey. I've actually had 8 negative feedback scores against my name over just the last 12 months. Now, fortunately, I've got 5,000 plus positive feedback scores next to my name, so the impact isn't as heavy. But there is a concern when you're first starting out. There's a bigger impact on feedback percentage when you've only got a few positive feedbacks left to your name. Just one negative feedback and 20 positive feedbacks can leave you with a percentage score of just 95%. And what that does is it creates distrust with people that are looking to potentially buy your items. So this is why getting a negative review when you're first starting out is way more detrimental to somebody that is established. Now, a lot of the time, the negative feedback isn't a scam. It's more issued out of frustration. There could be multiple reasons why somebody could leave a negative review on your account. You could have an item that is not as described. Maybe it was in the wrong condition, or there was some missing parts or inaccurate photos. There was potentially some poor communication. Maybe there was a lack of response on your end as the seller. You could also have faulty items or items that got damaged when they were shipped. You didn't even know that they got damaged, and then when they were received, the buyer got very hot-headed, which is generally the biggest reason negative feedback gets left is emotional. It's them seeing that your item is damaged in the post or something like that, where they get very frustrated and they run straight to the computer and leave a hot-headed response of negative feedback. So it's really important to realize that it's not just solely based around the item, it's more based around the experience as a whole from their point of view as a buyer. So what should you do when you get a negative review? Well, first things first, remain calm. And then secondly, send them off a quick message. Say something like this. Say, "Hi, so-and-so, thanks for your purchase. I noticed the feedback you left. I'm really sorry you had a bad experience. I'd love to make it right. Would you be open to a replacement, a refund, or another solution that we can turn this thing around?" What that does is going in with a really polite, gesture of looking to try and support a solution is potentially going to get that hot-headed customer to calm down a little bit and maybe shoot you back a message saying, "Oh, look, I would love a refund." From there, what you could do is say, "Yes, absolutely, I'll issue you that refund. If you don't mind, there is a revision request process that I can go through with eBay. I would love to receive positive feedback for this order if I can facilitate a refund for you." And then from there, the buyer will hopefully say, "Yes, absolutely, no worries at all." And they will amend that negative feedback to positive feedback for you. Now, say for instance, they didn't reply. They totally ghosted you and you still had that negative review sitting on your account and you really wanted to remove it. You could then go to eBay, but eBay are only going to see whether or not there was a policy violation with the feedback that was left. So there are some reasons that can cause policy violations, and some of those reasons are you have profanity or hate speech in the feedback that was left to you. There's feedback from something that was totally out of your control, feedback on the wrong transaction, and you can go to help, seller help, and then feedback removal request, and you can go through that process of speaking to an agent to see whether or not the feedback is deemed to be eligible to have it removed. Now I'm going to stick with the process of doomsday scenarios and say that the agent at eBay wasn't able to help you, which unfortunately is often the case. Let me know in the comments if you think you should have had a feedback removed and they weren't able to do it for you. I know I've had that on a number of occasions. But what I will say is that there is not a lot of harm to your overall account as long as you don't fall below that 98%. If you do, then you want to work really, really hard to communicate with other sales that you do get to try and get positive feedback left on your name. I often see a dip in sales between 24 to 48 hours. eBay doesn't say that that's what happens, but let me know in the comments as well. Like, I know when I get a negative review that there is always a dip in sales for at least 48 hours. It's just part and parcel to the process of copying the negative. But post that 48 hours, for myself personally, sitting above 98% positive feedback, I really don't get too many more restrictions from there. It's usually pretty fine after that first whack of a 48-hour sales hold. So how do you prevent this from happening? Because we don't want any impact on our sales. We don't want to dip for 1 or 2 days. We just want a nice, consistent run of sales with ideally 100% positive feedback. So what can you do about it as a seller? Well, there's a lot. you can do a heap actually. You can be brutally honest about your listings. That would be the first and most important thing that you could do. If there's any blemishes, scratches, dints or damage, you want to really highlight that, not only in the photos, but you want to also put that into the description box as well. You want to make sure that you ship it really fast. 1 to 2 days worth of shipping and handling would be fine. And you really want to make sure that there is a tracking number that is provided on that item as well. You want to over communicate with buyers. There's often frustration when there is left to silence, radio silence on our end as sellers that causes the buyers to get really frustrated. So make sure that you're super communicative and you're sending a bunch of messages off to your buyers regarding anything, whether it be positive or negative. The other one as well is you want to get some really clear photos, 12 if possible, capture different angles, really try and get a holistic viewpoint of the product that you're trying to sell. And you want to also offer 30-day free returns, because that is a really nice privilege that you can give to your buyer for them to have the confidence that they aren't out of pocket. They can literally issue it back to you as a return and you will wear the cost of that additional postage. I would far recommend you go down that path and facilitate that option, then build up negative feedback on your store. Now, while feedback is super important, I would argue your seller level is even more important. This is how eBay views you as a seller. And there are certain metrics that they go by to work out whether or not you are a reputable seller in the eyes of eBay. So to access that information, you're gonna have to go up to your performance tab and you're gonna wanna click on seller level. From there, eBay's gonna show you how they view you as a seller. And right now, my past seller level is top rated. And if I'm evaluated on the 20th of November, which is coming up, I'm gonna be evaluated as top rated. So everything I'm doing in the eyes of eBay is deemed to be the best that it can be, which is fantastic. They're assessing you on these metrics right here. And the first one is the transaction defect rate. And if we open it up, I've had 0%, literally 0 transactions with a defect rate. And the defects that they're looking at are things like you canceling an item and being out of stock. So if you sell an item on Facebook Marketplace and then it sells on eBay, but you didn't delete the item on eBay, that's a really common example of how you can pick up one of these defects. And you really don't want to do it because it can really hurt you. As you can see, the severity of literally just being 0.5% or less can cause you to not be a top-rated eBay seller. The other one as well is cases closed without seller resolution. And what that refers to is an item not described or an item not received gets opened up, a case gets opened up, and you need to go ahead and find the resolution for that case. If you don't do that and you just let eBay jump in and do it for you, well, eBay's going to dock you for a cases closed without seller resolution. And again, you really can't afford to get too many of those, either 1 or 2 of those instances, and you're quickly falling into the above standard or the below standard if you're more than 2%. The next one is your late shipment rate. I've got a 0.59% late shipment rate. 4 of my orders went out after I said that I would be sending them out, and I do a same day shipping and handling time. So as soon as the item sells, I'm pretty much getting on top of it straight away. But I need to hold myself accountable to that, or eBay is also going to do that and give me a knock, and then I don't become a top-rated eBay seller. So to give yourself some leniency on this one, I would actually recommend that you do a 1-day shipping and handling time. You're still going to give really great customer service doing a 1-day shipping, but you're not going to run into the concern of being a same-day shipping and handler because life does get in the way. And if you do lapse and not able to get it out on the same day, you are going to get hurt with this top-rated seller status going away. There is a little bit more leniency though. You do have up to 5% or less when it comes to your late shipment rate, so it's not too bad. Now, cases closed without seller resolution, that is also there on just a standalone. So this is a really big one. Basically, when you get a message come through from a buyer saying they need something resolved, just go ahead and fix it straight away. That is the easiest way that you can sort yourself out and not run into this problem right here, which is a big one. And I have been in the position where I didn't go ahead and I fixed the solution for the person, and I actually got a couple of defects and I fell below standard. This is way back when I very first started selling on eBay, and your traffic gets absolutely smashed. In that below standard, you are almost telling yourself that you're not going to get any sales, and it's a very slow process to get yourself out of that hole. So these are the 3 things that you're going to need to focus on. Transaction and sales is the last one, and look, that's a fairly simple one. Really, for top rated status, all you need is 100 sales and all you need is $1,000 worth of revenue. And as you can see there, I am well surpassing those metrics. But this is what we teach. We have the Launch Lab, and the Launch Lab is how to get your first 100 sales and how to get your first $1,000 selling on eBay. But not only that, doing it in an efficient manner. And there is a link in the description below for that. Our next cohort opens up on January 5. There's another thing that can really hurt the beginner eBay seller, and to be honest, any eBay seller out there, and that is scams. That is nasty people that are floating around the eBay platform that are out there to try and hurt you, to discourage you, to take you off the platform altogether. And because that often can happen, we get so discouraged by a scam that it causes us to completely lose the confidence to want to keep selling. And the first one is the item not received. That is when an item is sent and then they literally say that they did not receive it. Now, that is often really preyed upon when there isn't a tracking number provided. So personally in my store, I'm always sending it off with a tracking number to the address that is on file from the seller's end. And by doing that, I really have every leg to stand on because I'm giving all the information that I need to eBay to say that I issued the product and it was delivered in an appropriate time frame. But when you don't do that and you don't send via tracking to try and save some money, scammers will often see that and they'll go and attack you and they'll say, yep, even though the item arrived, I'm going to tell this person that I didn't even receive it. And then they give you an item not received scam, and from there you're left with no other option but to issue the refund. And if you don't, then a case is going to get opened up against you and eBay is going to literally take your money and they're going to give it to the person that received your item. So you've lost your product and you've also lost the dollars out of the sale. Now the next one is called the switcheroo, and I have had this one happen to me before with a Pokemon card. I sent off a Pokemon card and I had the same Pokemon card returned, but it was a damaged version of the card. eBay had already facilitated the refund automatically, and the refund came back, or the product came back to me, and I knew at the time that I received it that it was not the same product. I couldn't relist it and get the same amount of money due to the condition of the card. So I was really frustrated with that. I tried to communicate to eBay that it wasn't the same product that I initially sold, but I didn't have a leg to stand on because I didn't have any true documentation or evidence to support my my case. And I lost a couple of $100 from it, which was super frustrating. So definitely maybe film yourself on rare items or expensive items, packaging up the item to show that there's no way it could have got damaged with the way that you went about the shipping method. I would also maybe take extra photos of things like serial numbers if you're selling anything that has an identification number. Just be very pedantic about the process of the listing and the way that you went about the shipment. If you can do all of that on your end in documentation, when the switcheroo happens, you're going to have much more evidence to be able to supply to eBay to make sure that that refund comes back to you. Now this third scam, this one's a nasty one. This one really preys on the beginner because they're just so excited about getting a sale and you just want to do everything you can from a customer service perspective to make sure that the sale goes through smoothly. But what often happens with this one is it's basically regarding the address on file. So a buyer will buy the item and they'll immediately send you a message and they'll say, do you mind if you could send it to X location instead because I'm on holiday or I'm visiting family? Do you mind if you can send it there because it would be so much better if I could receive it at that location? And you as a seller that is so excited about getting a sale, you say to yourself, look, I'm going to do everything I can to get this situation resolved, and I'll absolutely send it to that different address for you. But what will happen is that will go against the policy of sending it to the correct address, and eBay won't give you any form of seller protection because you haven't sent it to the correct address that was on file. Even if it was sent through Messenger on eBay, it still needs to go to the address on file, or else you're going to get, I guess, caught up in this scam, which is a very, very common one and a very innocent one, but it happens a lot. I see a lot of beginner eBay sellers in my Launch Lab program that say to me, Matt, they've just sent me a different address. It seems a bit fishy. What should I do? And I always say, tell them to cancel it, get them to update their address, and then get them to go ahead and buy the product again. And that way, the right address is on file with that new amendment, and then you can send it to the address on file, and it will go to the address on file, and there'll never be an issue. Now, we've slowly worked our way up in severity, and often at times we're being hurt by people that are leaving us negative reviews or scamming us, but this is where we can hurt ourselves. We can be our own worst enemy, and we can ultimately get our store suspended or banned at a literal click of a button from eBay's standpoint, and we don't want to do that. I want to really help you guys today make sure you never get yourself into that situation, because like I said at the start of the video, I have seen scenarios where people have had amazing eBay stores taken away from them, swept under the rug, never to be seen again because of one or two simple mistakes that just should never have been made. And the first one one is counterfeit products. This is one that a beginner will get into and very commonly list up a product that they're not sure if it's authentic or not. And that is a big no-no when it comes to selling on eBay. You must make sure that your products are 100% genuine and authentic. This is a big one with the designer category. So any of the designer name brands out there, you may have been at a local flea market, you pick up a brand like a Gucci wallet and you think to yourself, great, it's worth $700, how good's that? And you go and list it up onto eBay and it turns out to be an absolute counterfeit, and you're suspended. Yeah, an alert or a warning is sent to you. You may continue to even try and sell another product. You might have bought 4 or 5 of the same sort of product and then you've got dinged a couple of times, and before you know it, you've received that suspension letter or that complete ban of your account for selling counterfeit products. So this is a big one. There's also IP issues as well with selling certain brands and certain products as well. It's called a Vero violation, and this is something that not a lot of sellers know about, but it's really important that you read up on the Zero policy. There are certain times where you'll get a warning issued to you if you're trying to sell a product that is actually on the Vero list of products. So I can link that Vero list for you in the description below to have a look at. I won't explain it too heavily in this video today. So in your first early days, starting out on eBay, just be very cautious about the products that you're sourcing. And if you don't have any reputable invoice of purchase to show that it is 100% authentic, then I would be very cautious about going ahead and listing it up onto eBay. If it's a Gucci wallet at the flea market, maybe put it on Facebook Marketplace. Now, this next one could get you investigated, account suspension, totally banned as well if it deems to be a big issue that you've not just done once or twice and you've done quite a few times. And they'll often say shill bidding or feedback manipulation, listing manipulation. A couple of examples of that is using other accounts to inflate sales. Or feedback. So a really good example of this is, say you're new and you're excited about selling on eBay and you want to get some sales or you want to get some traction on an auction if you're choosing to auction an item. Getting your mum and dad to jump in and use their account, or maybe you create a second profile and then you go in there and you use that second profile to pump up the bidding numbers or to give yourself positive feedback where it's not actually anybody else other than yourself or a family member that's doing so. eBay can really see a track record of history and IP address locations to deem whether or not that's a violation of the policy. Shill bidding, manipulation in any sense of the matter to try and pump up the, I guess, the appearance of your eBay store and the appearance of the sales that you're getting can cause some really big issues. So the more that you do that, the more that eBay have been able to investigate and see the number of times that you've been doing this and for the length of time that you've been doing it, it's just going to make the penalty even more and more drastic to the point where they could literally just cut you off right there at the drop of a notice. So look, I know, look, I've never done that. I wouldn't even think to do that. But I think it's something that maybe potentially people would do if they have a really expensive product and it may have not quite hit the reserve that they wanted to get. I could see that even happening to experienced sellers where they'd get a friend or a family member to try and jump in and pump up the bids. And you just can't do it. It's a huge breach of a violation of the eBay policy. The next one that can happen every so often as well that eBay are always going to be checking on is trying to take transactions off eBay. So if you're trying to save on fees, that's often the biggest one. You try to save on fees by saying to them in a message, hey, do you mind just shooting me a note on Instagram? We'll be able to get the deal done there. Taking a sale off the eBay platform to lose them the opportunity of making $1 is a huge breach of policy, and that can absolutely get you suspended if you're trying to do that on multiple occasions. eBay is a fantastic platform because they give you millions of customers, they give you so much reach, and the second you have one that's potentially interested in buying your item, if you're then trying to take them off platform, or if you're supplying false tracking details and you're doing things shirky, eBay are going to see it and they're going to absolutely come after you for it. So never take anything off platform. Always do and facilitate everything on platform. It's the reverse of the scammer trying to scam you. It's you trying to scam eBay. And they don't like that. Now, eBay are very strict with these policies. If they see a breach in the policy, you're even lucky to get a warning. Usually you're being issued with a suspension letter and you literally didn't even know anything about it. If it was a counterfeit product, for instance, you knew you weren't being fraudulent in any way, but eBay's policies are there for a reason, and you do, as sellers, really need to know about them. Now, guys, I'll leave you with this video right here because this was a big video of me sourcing great product to sell on eBay, and I can promise you there was no counterfeit products in this one.